So, here we are in La Revolution Francaise. Just started the turn, ran through the events phase. And I noticed one thing, I had the charts backwards. I had raised the Commune of Paris instead of the economic chart. But after the events, I've got things set correctly. The economy's at level 2. We're seeing some increase in the coalition and the clergy, a reduction in the Commune of Paris due to the events. One of the events, we had Amiens go neutral, but one of the events was sugar riots in Paris, and that did two things. It not only made Paris go neutral so the Gironde no longer control it, but it also raised the Commune of Paris. Now, that's somewhat disturbing to everyone, actually, because the Commune being down, being unraised, or being raised, means that, and uncontrolled, it means that there's no way to install the convention at this point in the game. The normal way of installing the convention would be to get the Commune up and declare war. Right now, the Girondins really want the convention in place, but they'd like it to be in place while they're at peace, because that's the only way that they can get things triggered the way they want them. So, I'm not sure quite what they're going to do. I think the Girondins, like the Filons, are going to be playing to try to maintain the current status quo. But if they want, they can go suppress the Commune, which will raise it to level 20 on the track, which makes it a lot easier to start triggering events with it. The problem is it also gives a lot of power over to the Sans-Culotte and the Montagne. So those are kind of iffy decisions. I have to think a lot about what's going to happen and who wants what at this moment. All right. So here I'm going to show you an example of why I'm not sure I trust the rules as opposed to the examples. This is for actions that the government can take as objectives. And one of those actions is suppressing a revolt in a given region or suppressing the Commune of Paris using a regional action. Okay. And then under suppressing the Commune, we have to go back to raise or suppress the Commune. And this is only the Sans-Culotte, the Montagne, and the Gironde can attempt to raise or suppress the Commune. Other currents can attempt this action depending on the political regime. But there's no indication that the government can anywhere. And this is kind of the other current that can is in certain conditions the royalists can. So it leads me to wonder, gee, you know, how much can I trust the other thing that I'm taking literally as opposed to what I wrote in? Now I'm going to keep playing how I am, and I'm not going to allow the government to pick or to succeed in attempting even suppressing the Commune. They can pick it, they just can't do it. That's the way the rules actually read. But there are definitely problems in the rules, and I think one has to kind of take that into account. And like with almost every Azure Wish game, make some decisions based on their knowledge. And unfortunately, I haven't played in a while. Thought I'd play by the rules as I saw them written, just to see, because I've had a certain experience with the game every time. I think, looking at things now, that those rules actually worsen the situation that I'm worried about. So I settled on my objectives for the second turn. The government's objective is to arrest Cadoodle. Okay, Cadoodle. One of the royalist blurry leaders. Now that gives warning, so he can go someplace where he's safe and probably makes it much harder. The Fillon want to plot Marseille, which they have a couple of leaders that help, and it's empty, so since they go first in the round, they'll probably be able to do that fairly easily. That's turn one. The Girondins and the Marais have come to an agreement based on their previous alliance. They want to force the government to declare war. The Fillon are doing pretty well right now. The Girondins would like to get into the convention. The Marais are willing to support that as well. The belief is that a declaration of war will help both. And it will certainly harm the Fillon. It may help the Montagne and the Sans-Culotte more, and they're willing to support it as well. However, they can't pick that as their action. Neither of them is allowed to do it, and they're not allowed to ally with the Girondins. So they're choosing to suppress the commune. This is a first step towards raising the commune correctly. Now, so they're both committed to that, and they will attempt that. It's possible that they may also raise the commune again this turn under their control. Alright, I made it most of the way through the regional actions. Cadoudal has, rather than being arrested, he was able to flee the map. Basically, that means the government failed. Their role was not successful enough to actually arrest him, but it was able to make him go into hiding. We see some other actions which happened, largely just control of territories. But the reason that I wanted to catch this particular moment was one of the last things that happens in the regional actions is raising or suppressing the commune. And here the Girondins proved to be somewhat treacherous. They suppressed the Paris commune themselves, and actually they have control of Paris now. And that kind of screws over the Montagne and the Sans-Culotte. I think the Sans-Culotte are going to immediately make an attempt, and they can only do one because they only have enough money for one. To raise the commune back up, they have 2, 4, 6, 8 fame added, which puts them to a 15 on this chart. 8 on the 15 chart is a success, and that's a full success. So they've raised the commune back up now, and that puts that fully into Sans-Culotte control again. But that does mean that the Montagne and the Sans-Culotte failed in their objective. So in the political phase, if we counted up the votes, we saw that the Girondin-Marais alliance, and really everyone except the Fillon, was willing to accept going to war. So a declaration of war has been performed, and I haven't set up the troops yet. I'll be doing that shortly, and then they start maneuvering, etc. But I wanted to hit the next little step. Then, in the Patriots phase, justice, we take care of anybody who's been arrested. Nobody has been. Then criticism of the government. And this is where things get really weird. Because the government failed to arrest Cadoudal, part of the agreement that the Marais and Girondins came to was that both would vote against the government and throw it into the Fillon's hands. So they managed to force the Fillon to now take the failing government into a war that they did not want. It's kind of an amusing situation which doesn't really make sense to me. It's a disturbing factor of the game. It's part of the power politics, etc., in the same sense that a game like Junta has that kind of maneuvering. It doesn't feel quite right here. I don't feel like it's reasonable that you should be able to declare what a foreign policy is going to be, and it's fine if you know you're going to fall, your government's going to fall, even though you force this policy into place. But it seems wrong that you'd vote against yourself. Now, whatever. But it's one of the little things that disturbs me about the game, along with some other things like the Montagnais actually want the war. Historically, they were very opposed to it, whereas the Girondins and the Sans-Culottes were in favor. The Montagnais and the Feuillants were opposed. Now, in this game, the Montagnais want the war. They can't get their agenda forward unless a war starts. So, again, it's kind of a just disturbing to me in terms of a historical positioning. So after combat, the Feuillants, they lost. They're ruling the government. They lost a battle at Lille, and that means that Lille is now under coalition control, and the government will not collect the money for it. However, they won a battle. They had 2 units against Brunswick's army in Metz, so that no army will be adjacent to Paris in time for the which would be able to install the convention. That's key from the Feuillant purposes. And they stalemated in a battle at Strasbourg. Battles use the same chart as everything else. They use the 13 to 14 column, and basically it's just an even battle. And for each additional army you get a bonus of 1 to the die roll. So having extra armies is a huge advantage, although you could actually take a penalty by doing that if you wished, as the commander of the armies. Alright, so that's the military phase, and now we're going to go through the interphase, and I'll come back when that's done. Alright, so here we are at the wrap for the turn. Because of the war, the coalition's up at 20. The clergy have shot up almost into that second zone. The huge economic expenditures have driven things up to the deeper into the second level. We're getting dangerously close to the third level. Someone ought to do something. Those choppers in the back are because of tax protesters. The commune is very, very quiet. It is, however, raised, and in the Sans-Culottes' hand, which allowed the Sans-Culottes to get a pile of money. They got 600 bucks this turn, much, much more than they've been pulling. The government is over in the Feuillants' hands, and they failed in their objective. So here's where our objective, our fame is. The Feuillants are still doing okay. They broke even. The Marais and Girondins both went up, however. The government went down, and all these losers went down. Now, being that low makes things really, really tough. The only thing that's going good for these guys is they have some special advantages. And this may be what makes things kind of a little more even, but in my playing it hasn't. For example, the Montagnais and the Sans-Culottes both have advantages towards playing with the commune, especially the Sans-Culottes. And we also have... Oh, I forgot to give them money for... I think I did. Okay. We also have, where was I? The Royalists, who have the advantage of being able to use the coalition troops, and only they can perform actions in such areas, and then they can get capital out of that. And it can give them a lot of benefits as that progresses. So we're going to see whether or not things can progress the way they probably should have, the way they should historically. I've usually been very disappointed in this game in terms of managing to reach the full bloom of the revolution. Usually the terror doesn't come until very close to the end of the game at best. Alright, well, we'll roll into the next turn and see what's happening.